So normally when I have a press bike, I get it for like 2 weeks and I spend a couple of weeks shooting with it, and then I publish a review at the end, and then I get loads of great comments and questions and ideas for videos after I've given the bike back. So I thought with this Africa Twin that I just picked up yesterday, I dropped the Goldwing off, I'll post a quick walk around of it, a quick first impression of it, and then hopefully you guys can leave your comments, questions, ideas in the comments below, and I'll hopefully be able to cover all that stuff off while I've got the bike. So here it is. This is the base model of the Africa Twin, so the cheapest one at 13 grand. I think it's the CRF1100L, and this is intended really for off-roading. It's the Adventure Sport that's the higher spec version, and that's a road touring focus model. But yeah, this is a lot more simplistic, and actually Honda haven't really fitted accessories. This is pretty much in its stock form, which I think might actually be a good thing. I mean, I published a video about the Street Triple R a few days ago, last week I think it was, that it was announced, and a lot of people were saying that they prefer that cheaper, more basic bike to the TFT equipped range topping RS. The fewer aids, the fewer bits of gear, the better in a lot of people's eyes. So I'm quite happy to be trying this out, especially after riding the DCT Goldwing for the last 2-3 weeks, which is pretty much the opposite of this. It's got all the bells and whistles, including an airbag and handbrake. So I'll run through the specs of the bike quickly from the front to the back. So this has inner tubes, this version, being the off-road focus version. The Adventure Sport has tubeless tyres. Yeah, but this has got the Metzler, what are these ones? These are the Metzler Karoo Street, so they are street focused, but as you can see, there's a bit of grip to them. We've got 4-pot Nissin calipers here, radially mounted, 310mm discs, those wavy discs, and then some fully adjustable 45mm Showa forks as well. I'm sure I'm going to be making loads of comparisons to the Tiger 900 in the videos about this bike, but one similarity here is the split radiator, so there's half of it and then the other half over there, and then up front that sort of mean DRL stare and those indicators that stay on as DRLs as well. This stubby screen's quite interesting. I believe there's an accessory to fit a bigger one, but riding this back on the motorway yesterday, you know, there's quite a bit of wind blast. It's really not made for motorway miles, that screen, and probably better for off-roading where you don't want a mucky screen blocking your view. You could also say the same of these handguards. They don't do a lot to block the wind, but they do protect the levers. It looks a bit like there's a mount there for perhaps some additional wind protection. But it wasn't the worst motorway ride. I mean, it's got loads of pluck, this motor, for overtaking. And obviously it felt extremely nippy and lightweight after getting straight off the Goldwing. So that's the new 1100cc motor, over 100 horses now, pretty good torque as well. I'll go into that in more detail when I actually review it. There's a big catalyzer here on the side of the engine. It looks a little bit like a, you know, a sump guard, a bash guard, but, well, from the side. But as you can see, there's the bash guard, and here's the header pipes running into the cat. So that's part of the, you know, tweaks for Euro 5 to get it to pass the emissions tests. The subframe is now bolt-on, again, as with the Tiger 900. So if you drop it and bend the subframe off-road, you can just replace the subframing instead of replacing the whole frame or writing it off. Same for the passenger pegs as well. Quite interesting that they've got this little triangle on the back. It's almost like a heel guard for the silencer. And then just behind there you can see some cables going in. So these wires here go into the bottom of the silencer, and that's some tech inherited from the Fireblade, where there's a valve in there that changes the characteristics of the exhaust the higher the revs get. Again, something I'm definitely going to talk more about in the final review. I find that's a super interesting piece of tech, and I wonder what happens if you replace the silencer with you know, like an aftermarket one. Not a great deal to say about the rear here, just a single Nissin brake and then obviously the same Metzler tyres. But I do like the shape of this tail section. It's really pointed and gives it that off-road look. Definitely gone for the dirt bike styling with that. As you can see, there's a bit of a step here. So I've got this seat in its low position. When you take it off, there are a couple of different notches. So the low is at 850mm and then 870 for the high. I'm wearing some decent sized boots, Cuban heels today. So it's not too bad, although I do still struggle to walk it backwards, especially if I'm on a bit of an incline. and I'm about 5'9", to give you some reference point there. But you know, it's not a total nightmare in traffic. It's quite easy to get a foot down. Not sure about the red vinyl on the top of the seat. What do you guys think of that? It's a big statement. I think it's an 18.8 litre tank on this one, so not as big as the Adventure Sport, but you might not want a huge tank on the more off-road focused version of this bike, and 18.8 still ain't bad. This screen is pretty interesting. I know that Hondas don't have a reputation for being the most characterful bikes, and I don't know, the design of the screen, it reminds me of a instrument or, you know, machine from a hospital or something. It's really readable, but yeah, after getting off the Tiger the other week, which is a bit more dramatic in the way it displays the revs and stuff, I can kind of see why it might have that reputation. But you know, it's great so far. It doesn't have nav built in, unfortunately, but it does have CarPlay, so I'll try that out when I'm reviewing it. And then there's just an LCD display below with some of the basics. I guess this is a fallback for if the actual TFT dash dies, you've still got speed, gear, miles, and then some you know, lights like neutral, oil, cruise control light there. And then there's a fair bit to go out on the switchgear here. Loads of buttons that can be customized. It's got a 6-axis IMU like so many bikes do now. So you've got wheelie control and rear wheel lift control, cornering ABS, cornering traction control. So again, I'll go through that in detail when I review the bike. But it is taking me a little bit of time to get used to everything and work out where all the menus are and stuff. Not even heated grips fitted, which I was a bit gutted about on the motorway yesterday. But like I say, it's in its kind of like pure stock form. So that's a quick walk around the Africa Twin 1100 for 2020. Like I say, let me know in the comments. I really want to hear questions you've got and all that kind of thing, so that I can make sure I cover it all off in the next 2 weeks. I'll either do some, you know, shorter videos before the review, or I'll try and answer your questions in the kind of main review video. Thanks.